Never been in it. No, that's a European election. The cabinet been in here, by the way. They're all going, who's that? This new rock and roll phenomenon will never catch on with this new Labour. But the cabinet here, we're talking in the car, we thought it was the week before the budget, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Amongst other things, they introduced that 5p, the tax rate for the high earners. So we can talk about whether we would have done the same, whether that was too much, whether that was too little. What is a high earner? Which I think is what they discussed, and that and their expenses. So you've been claiming for a second house, Nick?
And there's interest in that tax rate because the rich have said, oh, it's the death of New Labour, but New Labour have created a whole complete system where the mega wealthy have got richer than any other section in society. And the whole system that they've set up over the last 12 years hasn't helped the poor, but it has helped the super rich to destroy the economy, which is what's happening last year.
Yeah, I read an interesting statistic. The wealthiest 1% society had seen their incomes go up by 500% under New Labour, whereas the bottom 50% used to hold about 12% of the liquid wealth, which is the money in your bank account. It's now gone down to 1% of the liquid wealth of the country. So there's obviously been a massive shift from the bottom half to the very super rich.
Fair enough from changing the tax rate at the top, but they keep on forgetting about the one slashed at the bottom as well. And sort of other things that they've pretended to add on for it to make up for it, which doesn't account for a lot of young people working either.
The tax rate. The thing that strikes me often with this is it's not happened, that inequality has not happened to anywhere near the same degree in the rest of Europe. You know, all the billionaires come to London. Why does Abramovich and all these billionaires come to London? Because they don't pay any taxes here. If they live in Amsterdam or Paris or Frankfurt, wherever else, they get hammered, relatively speaking, to here. So they present it as some kind of great mystery as to why these entrepreneurs and wealth creators and inverted commas come here. And of course they're doing it for base reasons. They keep most of their wealth here, which is, you know, the antithesis of what Labour was supposed to be about. And so that was assuredly discussed at the Cabinet.
But everything's up for sale in Britain. I mean, every football team, every utility, Scottish Power, all owned by multinational companies, all based overseas, because more than any other country in the world, New Labour's put Britain up for sale and we're paying the price for it.
Yeah, and I noticed Arsene Wenger, did you see that? Arsene Wenger was critical of this increase in the tax rates. He says, you've not got all the best players in the world coming to the English Premiership. I mean, it's just so out of touch.
I gather that they don't actually pay tax over a certain amount, because most people in the centre of London who earn over a certain amount get a basic salary of about 100,000. Anything above that is paid in a way that avoids paying tax. And most of the footballers don't actually pay any tax whatsoever, as most of the people in the city do as well, over a certain amount. So the 5%, you know, the increase of 5% is almost really irrelevant. It will catch nothing. There'll just be more tax avoidance schemes.
And you've got a European Union that's run for the benefit of those people who are not paying any taxes against the interests of the, how many people is there in Europe now? 500, 600 million people, you know. And I think that's why the argument the SSP puts forward is we want to see a Europe that's run for the benefit of the 560 million rather than for the 600 billionaires or something like that. That's the gist of the choice in front of us.
You put a tax to say, no, they're doing something about, to get some cash back and try to make the rich pay.
Yeah.
But actually, what they don't say is that by bailing out the banks and the whole system, we are going to have our tax increase, and that they don't say it, but it's inevitable that it's going to touch us. It's going to, we're going to be the people most touched by those taxes, but it's not going to be an official tax increase reduced by default to help bail out the whole system.
So you were saying before, Rafi, about, you know, the extent to which the tax breaks for the rich, you know, are becoming a phenomenon. The SNP supported it, you know, a low corporation tax rate, Tories support it, the Liberals support it, Labour supports it, that idea that these are the wealth creators. It's an affront really when you think who actually creates the wealth, the young people you're talking about, that's where the wealth generation is. And yet they're going to see their taxes go up and up to pay for this crisis that was near their
and it won't be build a better infrastructure, a better transport system, a better schools, a better hospitals, or we to pay out the bank system. I work in the public sector in universities, and they've had the budgets cut right to the bone, so a lot more people, because they're not working, want to go and study. The facilities just aren't going to be there because they're paying off the finance industry.
And I think Darling's really underestimate how much it's going to cost. You know, he's budgeting for some form of recovery in the economy, which even the mainstream economic forecasters don't, I think, is far too optimistic. And he's basically putting off the tax hikes, which we will face, direct tax hikes, and the public services cuts till after the next election. And I think any of the capitalist parties that come in will be faced with similar sort of agenda. So we are basically going to pay directly through tax increases and through big public sector cuts. We're only seeing the start of them. You know, the idea that £3.5 million can be found for Glasgow schools when they're willing to spend £1 trillion bailing out the banking system, and it's a bottomless pit unless you do something to neutralise it. You'll carry on throwing money away.
And it's fair enough sort of the one about, well, we're going to create jobs by this for the Scottish Government or whoever else, but you could create jobs that are not they're actually a living wage. It's fair enough saying a minimum wage, but depending on your age, that could just be about £3, which isn't enough for anyone to live.
And I think what's become clear, going to be the election, since the parties have now made it clear who's standing, there's 14 or 15 parties, you're spoiled for choices from right-wing opposition to New Labour. You know, if you're opposed to New Labour from the right, you're spoiled for choice. But to oppose, and I think what we'll try and do in the course of the election is to say, why does it have to be from the right you oppose New Labour? Why shouldn't the left of New Labour, where the sort of political centre of gravity of people in Glasgow, Edinburgh, Dundee, Aberdeen, everywhere else, is to protect public services, is to improve them, you know, to make sure our schools stay open. The Tories will close schools if they were in charge of Glasgow. The SNP would probably close schools. They tried it in Edinburgh. So, you know, we've got to convey this impression that, yeah, you're right to be opposed to New Labour, where the product is terrible, but we have to improve things, not make them worse by giving a platform to Cameron or to Salmond or the Liberal Democrats and that. I think that's a task in the election campaign, don't you?